now circulating. We are live. So I'm gonna get the
when's the countdown?
Here we go. I'll do the countdown.
All right, Fish, we are looking at your NFL draft predictions. We will also hear from Dr. Dan O'Brien on whether you should go back to sporting events yet. And then we go to the movies and the Oscars with the Dragon movie guy, Brian Torsen. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daly Fish. I'm John Daly here with Eric Snyder, a.k.a. Fish. We are coming to you from Las Vegas and Myrtle Beach. Fish, this is going to be an awesome kickoff.
Yeah, I told you before we came on air that our friendship for 21 years and the scripts you've written together and all the great times, that if we would have had this technology 2 decades ago, we would have done this already. So I'm honored to be working with you, and let's hope it's a fun and great union for years to come.
We're going to definitely have a lot of fun here. So the NFL draft is this week. It starts Thursday night at 8 Eastern, ends on Saturday. We know they have amazing ratings. It is higher rated than even basketball and baseball, which is in the season. You've told me that so many times, and you're so right. Why do you think that is?
Because we're a football nation. I mean, if you go through all 4 corners of the nation, you go to South, North, Northwest, Southern California, even where your wife's from in Ohio. We're just a football nation, and doing college and high school in Texas. And the bottom line is, it's an event. It's drama. I mean, I always remember David Stern, who was the old commissioner of the NBA, saying, "I don't understand how we have a playoff game with Kobe Bryant in it, and the NFL draft gets higher ratings." But it is what it is, because there's drama. There's the trades. There's Aaron Rodgers that 1 year waiting to get picked, or Brady Quinn getting ready to get picked, and they put him in the green room. And we're probably gonna have the same kind of drama Thursday night.
All right. So do you watch every pick of the draft?
Yes, I'm that idiot. I do. I was lucky to cover the draft for AOL from 98 to 2004. I'm a draft geek guru. Sometimes when you're a Raider fan, you're going through the last 18 and 19 years of losing seasons. The draft is more fun than watching a Raider game. And it's fun. I mean, I just, we'll bring Brian on in a bit, and I'm into trivia. I happened to look at the 1991 draft. And I looked at the first 3 quarterbacks taken, just to show you how the drama of the draft unfolds. In 91, the first quarterback taken was number 5 by the Seattle Seahawks, Dan McGuire, Mark McGuire's brother. Played 5 games in the NFL. The next quarterback was Todd Marinovich. I call him Marinovich. 8 games with the Raiders. All right, remember him surfing naked? The next quarterback taken, the only guy really of any prominence in that draft, was Brett Favre. So that's the great things about the draft. 2013 draft. 2 quarterbacks taken in the first 2 rounds. E.J. Manuel of Buffalo in the first round, and Geno Smith in the second round, and both didn't really have prominent careers. So, I mean, there's always great storylines, and it always starts and ends with the quarterbacks usually.
Well, we're going to get to your picks in a bit. Also, you got a chance to go to Allegiant Field in Vegas, the Raiders' new stadium that had plenty of games last year, but no fans. Give me quickly your assessment of being there.
Probably the same feeling that James Earl Jones had when he walked through the corn. He got to go to heaven and hang out with Ty Cobb and Shoeless Joe Jackson. I was in heaven. I really can't explain it. I've been in a million football stadiums, but my football team that I've loved for my whole life has not only a state-of-the-art stadium, but it's all Vegas. All the artwork is about old Vegas and Sinatra and Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and the shows. And I got a chance to go on the field. Okay, I got a chance to see the owner's booth. You get a chance to see the locker rooms. And you have old play-by-play by Bill King, and it's a great hour and 40-minute tour. I think everyone should take it. Plus, you get a free drink when you go. So that's it was phenomenal. If you're not even a Raider fan, I saw other fans of other teams there. It's a beautiful venue, and I'm glad Las Vegas has this because, as you know, John, you lived there for many years. It's not going to only host the Raiders. We're going to have rodeos, there'll be football, concerts. It's great for the city.
Yep. No, absolutely. Can't wait to see it myself. Hey, folks, if you got a question or comment, drop it into our chat box here. And if you have any comments later, send us an email at dalyfish1, the number one, dalyfish1 at gmail.com, or post to our Facebook page, which is daily.fish.5. Now, in a little bit, we're going to have Dr. Dan O'Brien. He is an MD and MBA. He'll tell us whether we should attend games in person and should our kids be playing organized sports even as the pandemic winds down. He's got some tips for us. Plus, he's a big sports fan. Again, that is Dr. Dan O'Brien coming up in a few minutes. And later in the hour, we talk to Dragon movie guy Brian Torrison. We will talk Hollywood and Oscars with him. Are the Oscars dead? And we will still also talk a little about Vegas TV as well. So you're going to hear from Brian a little later. But now it is time for our Schmuck of the Week. Who do you got, Fish?
Well, this is our Schmuck of the Week. John and I are going to come up with the Schmuck of the Week. Then we're going to have another segment after that. And this is our Schmuck of the Week. I mean, we could be kind of, I don't know, get confrontational a little bit. I'm just going to put the person on there. That is Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner announced that in my hometown or home state of California that he is going to run for governor. And Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't do a bad job, John, but I can't imagine what her credentials are to become the governor of California. I know Gavin Newsom is under a recall count, but could you imagine the media if she actually gets a nomination and she wins this thing? I mean, look, I have nothing. Let's get this straight. I don't care what you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what who you sleep with. I don't care any of that stuff. I don't care what color you are. You know that. All right. But I wonder if Caitlyn's really Caitlyn, because there's going to be a question like, did you take the package off and enter a zipper, or what is going on with you? Because I think personally that this could be Bruce Jenner trying to get into the governor's office, and off comes the hair. Let me ask you this question. Okay. If this was a movie, who would portray this person in the movie? I already have mine.
Ooh, Bryan Cranston.
No. Can you see Julia Roberts playing Caitlyn Jenner? Look at that. Julia Roberts is Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, with the high cheekbones. Yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah.
I think it's a Schmuck of the Week because you know what? California's in trouble right now. Economics is in trouble. They got killed by COVID-19. And I think that if someone's going to run for governor, you got to have some political experience. I know I could be wrong.
Yep.
We're way off base right here, but this could just be hate to say it could be a shit show in the making. Okay,
and this is not in any anti-LGBTQ because we are in favor of it. So just if anybody's worried about that, no, we're not talking about. We're talking about experience as far as running a state. Okay, let's go to the other side. Who's got this week's swag? Who's got the swag? That's somebody really good.
Right there
you have it.
Now, when we have Brian on later in the show, you know, I've criticized this guy. This is Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders. And I've criticized him because as an owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, look, in the 10 years he's been the owner, they've had one winning season. And I look at owners as, are you winning or are you losing? But as a philanthropist, as a person in the community, what he did, he tweeted, I could breathe right now, and he got crucified for it. But he stayed very close to Thelonious Floyd, George Floyd's brother, and that community and people came to his defense. There's no better person on the planet than Mark Davis. Mark Davis has done more for Las Vegas with food banks for the kids for Clark County School District. He's done more for domestic violence and abuse. As a person, and as a person in the community, he gets an A grade. As an owner of a football team, it's a C- right now. So to me, I think he's got swag. He took a lot of heat this week for what he did. What do you think?
Yeah, and I agree with you. And again, we try to agree on the schmuck and the swag of the week. But I think his intentions were good. His intentions were to be with the community and also with the family. So no, absolutely. And I just think, again, a lot of people get on social media and they sound off probably without thinking, without even realizing what his intentions were. And his intentions were very positive. So yeah, so I agree with you 100%. Okay.
I even add on to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, since we've got our swag, who's got swag?
Well, I want to show you one thing. One thing I want to show you. Look at Mark Davis's hair. Rumors has it, I have inside sources that he goes to Sacramento to get his haircut. I think that he gets his haircuts I think he looked at this guy. That's Mo Howard from the Three Stooges. I think that's where he, yeah, that's exactly. That's where he got the incentive to have that kind of haircut. But I just want to say, hey, both guys have swag.
There you go. Mo definitely has swag. Curly has swag too. So Larry, okay. But anyway, okay, now we got our drink of the week. And we got some whiskey in this one. This is your concoction. It's big in Vegas. Tell us about it.
This is the Washington Red Apple. And at Chuck's Tavern, where I bartend, if someone says, hey, give me a shot, I've had beers all night. I've been drinking whiskey. This is right here, and this is Crown Royal, a little melon liqueur, and cranberry juice. And this is also good as a martini. So it's not really good to mix gin, vodka, and the brown liquors. But if you're drinking brown liquor and you want a martini or you want a shot, this is the shot to do. So on our inaugural show, John, I say cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers, big boy.
Oh, that'll wake you up in the morning, lad.
That's good. Now the rest of the show will completely disintegrate. All right, now we're going to have a drink of the week here each week. And I just want you guys to remember, Fish has been behind the bar for 40 years. I'm a graduate of Harvard. Wait for it. Harvard Bartending School. So again, we can help you find the right libations here. Now, our drink of the week is sponsored by Shuck's Tavern. If you're in Las Vegas and you want great seafood like oysters on the half shell, crab, and shrimp, the place to go is Shuck's Tavern. Now, they have 2 locations, but the spot you really want to go to is the northwest side of town. Why? Because they've got a bartender there whose name is Fish, and he does the overnights. In fact, if you go on Undercover Jet Set, my other show, you'll see a segment on Fish, and you can expect some good stuff. So what are they going to expect when they go there, Fish, especially late night?
Craziness. You get, people, you get a lot of industry people. People get off the swing shifts from the casinos and other taverns, this and that. People out late night want to get great food. Now that we're opening up, you're going to get hookers and strippers in there. So I'm sure you'll be making a visit to Las Vegas very soon. And it's me. I'm the only guy in there, and I have a cook. So you don't have a lot of young people. There's no kids in there. It's 21 and over, but it's fun. And we talk sports and have a great time. And it's a lot of people in there. It's always great stories. One thing great about doing this job as a bartender is every day I meet somebody new and I get a great story. I'm not sitting behind a keyboard every day for 8 hours. Looking at my watch saying, when the hell am I getting out of here? Or when's my lunch break? So a lot of fun. It's a great place. And if you're in Las Vegas, stop by. I'll buy you a drink.
Super. All right. Again, it's Shuck's Tavern. Check them out on Facebook. Shucks is spelled Shucks. Hey, now before we go to Fish's draft predictions, let's tell you a little bit more about us. If you're watching us live, you can go to the chat box, give us your comments and questions. You can also watch Daly Fish live on Facebook on Tuesdays, again, 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. And you can see us recorded on DBNA television. That's DBNA television. And it can be seen on Roku TV and also Amazon Fire and soon coming to Apple TV. It's also streaming 24/7 on the DBNA television website, and that's DBANDA television.com. Follow us and like us on Facebook at daily.fish.5. I should say daily.fish.5. That's on Facebook. But we got some funny different links there. And then you can also find us on YouTube. All right. So let's get into your draft picks now. And folks, you got to understand, Fish has always been my NFL expert. He's the guy I turn to. He's covered the Raiders for years. He's commentator on so many shows about the Raiders, the NFL, and other sports issues. This is like his Super Bowl, and you heard him talk about it before. But Fish, before you jump in, I got a question. Some trades have happened so teams can actually move up in the draft. Do you see anything happening over the next 2 days?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not convinced that at 15, the New England Patriots are sticking with Cam Newton. They're going to want to trade up and try and get a quarterback. And I'm not convinced at 20, the Chicago Bears who have Andy Dalton at quarterback. Nothing against the Red Rocket. He took Cincinnati to the playoffs 4 straight years. He's a very, very viable quarterback. I don't see it happen. I think they're trying to move up. You're going to see some movement by a couple teams to get one of these quarterbacks, which is a heavy first-round quarterback draft.
Big one, that's for sure. Okay, if you have some comments or questions, drop it in the chat box. It's right here. All right, one intriguing scenario. You mentioned it, the Patriots. They've actually traded up already, something Bill Belichick doesn't do. My guess, he is going after a quarterback, and because of exactly what you were saying. Who does he go after? Is he going after Mac Jones from Alabama, Justin Fields from Ohio State? What do you think?
Well, that's the thing. The big elephant in the room is, what do the 49ers do at 3? They traded with the Dolphins and gave away a king's ransom. And right now, it's anybody's guess. It could be Trey Lance, a kid out of North Dakota State. It could be Justin Fields out of Ohio State, or Mac Jones. My feeling is, if Mac Jones doesn't go to the Niners at 3, he could maybe drop down to the bottom of the first round. It could be a crazy, crazy ride for Mac Jones. Maybe Belichick's in love with Mac Jones because he's almost a Jimmy Garoppolo clone, And I'm also thinking this. I don't think the Niners, you got to think about the salary cap now. The salary cap went down because of COVID. They got to pay Garoppolo over $20 million. And when you pay a guy at the number 3 spot, are you going to pay $40 million out of a salary cap for 2 quarterbacks? I've never seen a quarterback be a backup making over $10 or $12 million. So, whoever goes to the Niners, and the Niners are going to get a quarterback, I'm not so sure it's Mac Jones. It's one of those 3: Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Justin Fields.
So definitely, whatever way the Niners go is probably the way we're going to see everything go, because they're going to make that decision since we know what 1 and 2 are going to go already.
Well,
go ahead.
Here's another thing. You got to look at it this way. I know the Denver Broncos, George Payton, their general manager, is in love with Teddy Bridgewater. He was with Carolina when Bridgewater went. Minnesota in their organization. So I think they want to move on because Carolina got Sam Darnold in a trade. They go 8, the Broncos go 9. I don't know if the Broncos are in love with Drew Lock as a quarterback. Look at some of those teams maybe moving up. We can get a lot of intrigue and a lot of movement in the first 15, 20 picks of the draft just to get some of those quarterbacks.
Okay, so the Raiders will not be picking a quarterback. What do you think they do?
What do you run the 40 in? Dr. Dan, if you're watching Dragon Movie, guys, suit up. I mean, because they've had a lot of reaches. Look, they need defensive ends like crazy, they need linebackers. I love the best defensive player in the draft is a kid out of Penn State called Micah Parsons. He's got some off the field issues. That's never bothered the Raiders in the past. The Ted Hedricks and the Stablers. They didn't care what you did off the field as long as you performed on the field. I love Micah Parsons. If he's there, he probably goes. They like Quiddy Patty, the kid out of Michigan. He's another defensive end. They can go with one of the linemen that we're talking about, Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State, or Darisaw. I mean, there's going to be a guy there that they need. The problem is are the Raiders going to do the reach? I thought in 19, when they picked Cleveland Farrell, that was a guy they could have gotten in the second round. The Raiders have to hit a home run in this draft. They did well in free agency, John, but because of trades, they have the 1 to 2, they have 2 number 3s and 2 number 5s. If they can get 4 starters out of this draft, they're probably a playoff contender.
All right, so who's your top pick that's going to be a bust, or what team will make the biggest blunder?
Well, you talk about quarterbacks. They're the ones that get the bust most. I'm not a big Mac Jones guy. Look, he's had some of the greatest receivers to throw to. He had Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy 2 years ago. They went in the first round. He got Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle this year. They're going to go in the first round. Did he make them better receivers, or did he make him a better quarterback? That's to see. I mean, Joe Burrow threw to Jamar Chase and he threw to Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase is going to be the first wide receiver taken this draft. Last year, Justin Jefferson won Rookie of the Year as a wide receiver. I don't think he won Rookie of the Year. But he had a great year. I think Justin Herbert won it. I'm sorry, but he had a great year. I think Mac Jones is the guy that could be the one guy. But you know what? Every year, again, you go back to Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. One was great, one stunk. Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer. One was great. Okay. Drew Bledsoe, I'm not great. Very good career. And Rick Meyer was average at best. So, there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks taking this draft, like every draft. 4 are going to be good and 2 are going to stink.
Okay. So there are probably some names there that are not being talked about a ton.
Sure.
They could be late picks. 1 or 2 of them may be a superstar. You may have another Brady. Can you pick anybody? Can you name anybody you think that might be in that position?
Well, go to draft history, and Brian will get a kick out of this because the 2 best quarterbacks, of all time right now, Russell Wilson and Joe Montana, John, went in the 3rd round. And Brady the GOAT went in the 6th round. I'm going to give you 3 guys, 3 names. Kyle Trask out of Florida, Ian Book out of Notre Dame, and just mentioned Notre Dame quarterbacks, other than Montana, none have really been successful. And then you're going to think I'm a homer because I went to the University of Texas, but Sam Ellinger at the University of Texas could be that 5th-round guy that's going to make a roster and eventually make his way up and get a starting job one day. I watched all his games, and he's a read option quarterback. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a great story. He's one of the toughest kids you ever want to see. And that's the future of the NFL. The Mahomes, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens, they can run the ball. And Ellinger's one of those guys. So keep an eye on Kyle Trask, everybody, out of Florida, Ian Book out of Notre Dame, and Sam Ellinger out of University of Texas. These guys are going to drop around 2 through 6, and they have a great chance to make an impact in the NFL in the future, in my opinion.
All right. So there you have it. Next week, folks, we're going to examine the draft and how Fish did on those predictions. So write all those down. Plus, we're going to have coming up, we're going to have Dr. Dan O'Brien, a Notre Dame grad. He might like hearing what you just said there, Fish. So he'll definitely like that.
Good.
All right. First, let's tell you about MedSonics. If you're in Vegas and you're in pain, go to MedSonics. This is a sound wave technology that can relieve pain. I know it works. I have used it myself. It is non-invasive. You just sit there for 25 minutes and relax. Now, it doesn't cure anything. It just relieves pain. Go to their website. It's medsonics.com, and that's spelled MEDSONIX, medsonics.com. The facility in Vegas is at the corner of Sahara and Durango on the west side. Al is the inventor, owner. Tell him Daly Fish sent you. All right, so are you going back to pro games in person? Should you? Well, Dr. Dan O'Brien is not only an MD, but an MBA, and he will have a book out soon, and he is a huge sports fan. So please, let's welcome to the show. Our first guest is Dr. Dan O'Brien. Dr. Dan, welcome to Daly Fish.
Hey, thanks, John. Great to see you and Fish. Happy to be on.
It's super. Great to have you on as always. I'll fill you in on I'll fill folks in on other stuff on how you and I know each other. But you heard Fish talk about the Notre Dame guy. Are you bullish on some Notre Dame guys really pulling it big in the draft?
Oh, for sure, John. Being my alma mater, of course. I mean, mentioning, Montana, some of the guys going back, Theismann. I mean, just such great history at Notre Dame. And anytime you mention Notre Dame, I get excited.
All right. And I should tell folks, Dr. Dan and I have another show called Dr. Dan and Daly that you can see on YouTube and also on DBNA Network, which we're also seeing here. So, Dr. Dan, before we get into your medical and healthcare stuff relating to sports, talk about your background and the time when you were an athlete at Notre Dame and what led up to you being a doctor.
Oh, for sure, John. So going back to my Notre Dame days, loved to play soccer, right? I mean, going to Notre Dame was kind of a dream come true. Always played a lot of soccer growing up. So being part of the team up there and really kind of practicing with the guys, and it was just a phenomenal opportunity. So, of course, being a Midwestern guy, Notre Dame was just a great fit, being an Irishman. So just amazing. And really just my love for education, my love for healthcare really led John to my passion for getting into medicine, right? Just being able to help patients. Always loved sports medicine. Actually, I did my sports medicine rotation with Dr. James Andrews down in Alabama. So he's worked with guys such as Pujols and Favre, and I think a little bit of Jordan. So just that experience with Dr. Andrews just taught me a lot about just being patient-centric, how important the patient is, and just the communication with the patient as well. So that kind of led me to just, again, further my passion in healthcare and medicine. And it's just been phenomenal. And right now, as you know, right, with COVID, there's just so much going on right now in healthcare. And I'm kind of a glass half full type of guy. So it's good to see some new technology. It's good to see some advances right now in medicine and kind of where we're headed in the future.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Dr. Dan. And I just got to say, being with you two Irish guys, I'm glad I didn't spill the drink. You both had a heart attack.
Right.
When you're in a bar business,
whiskey.
Dr. Dan, when you bartend
do we have an Irish whiskey?
I have Jameson. Next time I'll
nice.
In lieu of you. I have it all.
Oh, beautiful.
In the bar business, when a customer dropped a drink, and they said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," I said, "Don't get mad. Look at the Irish people gasping over there." So
that's right.
I make fun of you guys. So, Dr. Dan, you're big. You know a lot about what's going on as far as the protocols for COVID, and we all want to go back to games. And I want to go to Allegiant Stadium, which is a dome stadium. Now, Vegas is open to 80%, which means probably if an arena has 17,000 like the Knights, 9,000 can go in, what have you. What's your take in the fall when football comes back? I know the South is going to open up completely. Do you think it's going to be safe around the United States to have all these venues open and go back to what it was before the pandemic?
I do, Fish. Where we're headed right now, according to the numbers with the vaccines, the amount of people that are getting vaccines is big right now. Number two, we have a lot of public health officials that are involved with, the NFL, other major league sports, making sure that people are being safe in the stadiums, right? The hand sanitizers, the food and concession, so all of that is coming into play. So I'm very confident looking to the fall that we're going to be back watching our favorite team. Now, I can't promise I'm going to go for the Raiders, Fish, being kind of a Chiefs fan, being in the Midwest, but certainly I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be sitting there watching our favorite team live in person in Vegas.
Okay, that leads to my next question. I'm hearing rumors from my sources that you think there's any truth to the fact that the NFL and some of these leagues are going to you have to show your vaccination card to get into the stadium. You think they're going to make it sort of that's protocol?
It's going to get to that point, Fish. I don't think right away, but I think as more and more people get vaccinated, it's going to get to the point where you have to have some sort of evidence to be able to get in. Just because, again, as you're being surrounded by a lot of people in a crowded place, they're really talking about the literature staying kind of an outdoor facility. So kind of an indoor stadium could potentially be dangerous. But again, I think over time, as we learn more about the patterns and, of course, what's being said in the literature, we'll find more about the vaccination card. But interesting question.
So, Dr. Dan, Fish kind of touched on this too, but in the baseball season is that, certain southern stadiums are allowed because the states allow full participation. If you're talking to fans who maybe are going to full stadiums, would you say to them, okay, they aren't clearing them for vaccine yet, but they maybe by the time football time comes around. But let's say in May and June, you're going to a full stadium. Should you wear a mask?
Absolutely, John. I still think wearing a mask, social distancing are the right things to do. So again, it's just going to keep you safe, going to keep people around you safe. I know right now, particularly today, the president kind of made out a statement as far as not being in crowded places. If you've been vaccinated, maybe you don't have to wear a mask. I still think you have to wear a mask just to be able to be safe for the time being until we kind of get a grasp of the numbers declining quite a bit.
That's great. I mean, that's what we want to hear. I mean, I know everyone wants to go back and we're spoiled. We live our lives and all of a sudden this pandemic shut everything down, especially our business, the hospitality business. But the one thing that kept me going, but believe it or not, Dr. Dan, when we were shut down last year, you remember the foursome? It was Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, and was it Phil Mickelson? I forgot. The four. That was such a highly rated, because it's the first sporting event we could all watch. And baseball started, and now it's just so great to see 15,000 people at Dodger Stadium last night. I watched a game, and I think when we get sports back to some sort of normalcy, then you feel you feel like things are back to where they were. So the indoor venues, like the dome stadiums, would there be a protocol that you have to have a vaccination to get into a dome stadium, which there's maybe 7? I don't know how many there are in the NFL, but there's at least 6 or 7 of them. And in baseball, and then at the outdoor stadiums, there's more leniency. That concerns me. That's what I'm hearing. Dr. Fauci is somehow hedging that a little bit. We just want to know. Basically, we just want to know by September that there's one linear rule for everything.
No, absolutely. And I think, Fish, to come to your point, right, the great thing about sports, it's such a great unifier, right? It brings people together. And you mentioned the protocol. It's got to be consistent across the board, right? We have to have consistent protocols where everyone's kind of aligned and on the same page. And I really think we're working toward that. It's just, again, making sure that even from a public health standpoint, I've got a public health background, that things are aligned, that everything kind of makes sense as far as where we go, where we take this in the future. But I know people are excited to get back. I mean, sports brings such a great optimism. It's such a great unifier right now. So it's certainly fantastic.
All right. What about folks who are watching us who have kids and they are either going back to spring sports or they're going to go back to fall sports? Would you say that they should, or do you have some Dr. Dan do's and don'ts of whether they should or they shouldn't?
No, great question, John. So someone who's a father of a few kids, right? My son, my little leaguer plays baseball, and I always encourage him to get outside, get some exercise. Big thing is I'm totally fine with the kids being outside. Just make sure, wear that mask, have that protection, social distance from others. Big thing too, John, is the fact that a lot of kids want to kind of share water bottles or food. Just really make sure with kind of your, son or daughter that you're making sure they're not sharing drinks with others. But overall, I'd recommend kids getting outside. It's spring. It's going to be summertime. That exercise is not going to hurt them at all.
How about lacrosse? I know you and I talked about this before, and I thought your answer was pretty interesting. kids are playing lacrosse. They're going to bang heads. They're going to bang into each other. You're okay with that, but you do have a couple of stipulations.
I do, John. One thing that kind of jumps out with lacrosse, as far as just the contact, of course, being so close, but also the sharing of equipment. I think a lot of parents, we have to keep that in mind that as parents, as the kids share equipment, that can potentially be dangerous too, as far as being contagious to spread too. So we have to make sure that we're taking proper measures in regards to that.
Now, the one thing you got to like about Fish is that Fish is out walking his dog all the time, and he's got great exercise routine. So that's why at 84 years old, he looks as good as he does, and he hasn't had COVID.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fish is awesome. Looks fantastic. He's drinking a little whiskey. He's doing it all.
Like I said, if I did the 23andMe, I'd probably be 50% Irish. I'm one of you guys. Tell me about this. I look at your background, and I'm looking at, I love the fact that you're a medical futurist with the knowledge in telemedicine, robotic technology. Where are we headed? Where are we headed for it, real quick, that how robotic technology can help the athlete? Are we going to have robotic technology, Dr. Dan, that, and I'm just throwing this off the cuff, that an ACL injury, there could be robotic technology that could take an ACL injury from usually a 9-month injury to a 3-month injury?
No, absolutely, Fish. You make a great point. What's interesting about the robotic technology is the fact that you can actually treat more patients robotically, have a smaller incision too, and faster recovery. So that's some of the benefits of robotic technology. So a lot in sports medicine, we're going to see, right? Of course, you've got your traditional surgery that's important for surgeons to know, but also as we look to the future, this robotic technology, excuse me, it's certainly very exciting. So, and then you mentioned telemedicine, Fish. This time last year, we saw a ton of telemedicine, right? As physicians, we're seeing patients through, virtual communication. This really increased the access to care. So certainly a lot of things exciting with telemed. And I think, Fish, another great point too is AI. As we look at artificial intelligence, as we look at data analytics, particularly in professional sports, I think this is really the wave of the future. This can really augment or make more effective as far as the data analytics we're looking at, as far as these owners and players too, how we evaluate them. So great things ahead as far as the future of technology, robotics, telemedicine, AI, a lot now too with CRISPR and gene editing too is certainly pretty hot. And then remote monitoring, don't forget about that, as more patients can be remotely monitored. Say your blood pressure is high, you're an athlete, or your blood sugar, you're able to remotely monitor that. So the healthcare is certainly bright, and looking to the future is something that I love and I'm passionate about.
Since we're on a sports show here too, and you mentioned this, I had a Yankee fan say to me, he's absolutely amazed at all these young kids who are pitchers who are getting the Tommy John surgery, and then they're coming back. And he goes, some of them probably don't even need it. Is Tommy John surgery, is that going to change at all because of this? Or is Tommy John surgery hit its apex as far as making these kids longer pitchers?
Oh, John, I think right now with the innovation of where we're at, this is kind of the new era of healthcare, what we've seen. And as far as technology, I think, athletes are going to come back stronger than ever. And there's going to be new innovations, I think, in sports medicine, particularly as we know how common Tommy John surgery is. And it's amazing the pitchers that have it, they come back and they're just, throwing no hitters. So it's certainly it's something else.
I have two questions for you. One, do you still get carded when you walk into a bar? You look 12 years old. If I'm 84, what the hell are you, 14?
Oh, my goodness. No, I haven't got carded in a while.
Guy on the planet. And, okay, seriously, I have a statement. And the reason why I'm so excited about your technology and the futurism is that you told me you're like 34, which I have a Bo Jackson jersey. He had the same injury. Tua Tagovailoa of the Dolphins had the same injury with the Alabama Crimson Tide that Bo had. It cost Bo his career. So guys like you got Tua up in a year when 30 years ago it ended Bo's career. So I can only imagine in 30 years from now, like I said, with AI and the robotic technology, that we'll see athletes that have really serious injuries come back during their season. Because if a guy gets an ACL in football, he's done. But I bet you in 30 years from now, it could be back in a month. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. And Bo Jackson, what an incredible athlete, right? Doing baseball for the Royals, playing football, for the Raiders. It was just amazing to watch. And you're absolutely right. I think with more advances in technology, people are going to come back faster, better. And again, that recovery time is huge right now. Being able to treat more patients through some of this healthcare technology, because there's a lot of athletes like Bo that can do both. They could do Bo knows, right? So Bo knows baseball, Bo knows.
Well, he knows, and I got a chance to watch him live in the Coliseum. I've never seen a guy run on a sweep and cut at that size, and then go run a 4.2 down this, knock guys over. It was incredible. I haven't seen the guy since then, but it's a shame that an injury. The good thing is that the injury that Tua had, which is the same one he had, you can get this guy back on the field within a year. That's phenomenal.
Absolutely. He was such an electric athlete. You know, you look at him, Deion Sanders, some of those other athletes that did both, Brian Jordan. So absolutely.
Look at John. John saw Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth play. Look at him.
Yeah, I interviewed them too. Yes.
John was in Field of Dreams.
Dr. Dan, before we go, so give us, since Fish kind of went on this trail, what's the most electrifying athlete you've ever seen? Who is?
Oh gosh, you know, growing up, you know, John in the Midwest, I was always not only a huge soccer fan, but I loved football, but also basketball too. And I was always Michael Jordan, I felt like kind of revolutionized the game, right, of basketball. I felt like kind of growing up in the Midwest. So he was someone that I thought, boy, I mean, he really kind of built such a huge brand. And it was really interesting kind of watching his series last year. So he was someone that always kind of jumped out at me. I've met some really cool people at Notre Dame over the years too, but you know, someone like Michael Jordan, just, you know, growing up, you always think, boy, that game against the Utah Jazz, putting that move and that final shot was always pretty cool. So to kind of go out on top.
All righty. Dr. Dan, thank you so much. We're going to have you on again. We'll talk about some more medical issues as well. We appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, fellas. Great to see you. Fish, awesome seeing you, John. Absolutely. Happy to be on the show anytime.
Nice meeting you. Come out to Vegas, man. We'll age you a couple of years, all right?
It's my favorite city. I'll be out there. Absolutely. So
bring your fake ID, Dr. Dan. I don't believe however old you are, buddy. Yeah, right. You're not fooling me. Nice meeting you, sir.
Hey, absolutely, guys. Take care, fellas.
All right. He is Dr. Dan O'Brien. He's both an MD and an MBA. His website is drdanmd.com. You can also check him out on LinkedIn at drdanmd.mba. How'd you like to have all those initials after your name, Fish, huh?
Oh, geez. It's a pleasure. I mean, come on. Look at the guy. Are you kidding me? You tell me the guy was 14 years old? Was he Doogie Howser?
Hey, that would have been a good name for him. We got to remember that. That's good. All right. Still ahead. We're going to go to the movies. But first, let's talk about Undercover Jet Setter. This is, you're somebody who's in the hospitality business and you need customers. Please check out Undercover Jet Setter. It is a travel show. It's got travel, food, wine, mixology, and golf. And yes, I'm fortunate to co-host it with Susan Anzalone, who co-produces it with me. Sure, we take you on trips, but we also show you some great recipes, cocktails, and wines. But we do everything off the iPhone. That's right. We shoot the show off the iPhone. We even wrote a book on that. That means we can produce videos quickly, get them up on social media fast, and for a lot less money. So check us out on the DB&A channel and also on YouTube. That's Undercover Jet Setter on YouTube. And if you are in the hospitality industry, contact us. Let us know if we can help you. It's info@undercoverjetsetter.com. Okay, Fish, it's time to talk some movies, Oscars, and Hollywood. We have a great guest on now. His name is Brian Torrison. He is the Dragon movie guy. And folks, you need to subscribe to him on YouTube. He lives in Vegas. In fact, he was in the news business just like me. Brian, welcome to Daly Fish.
Hey, John. Hey, Fish. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Fabulous. Thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks for having me. I love that discussion on the NFL draft. By the way, I'm a huge Seahawks fan, so I have the Russell Wilson jersey behind me. So
there you go. Okay, that's all right. Fish will still talk to you. Hey, Listen, explain your site. You cover some wild stuff, and what I love is that you review something right as you and the audience are watching it for the first time. I think that is so cool.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of trailer reactions as they come out. I've been doing a lot of movie reviews as they come out, and then we did a live stream watch party basically of the Oscars 2 days ago now. So that was like our first. I was on a friend of mine's YouTube channel, and we're all kind of starting this YouTube journey together. Doing movie reviews and instant movie reviews. Goes right along with that.
Cool. Very good. So what was your reaction to the Oscars? They were rated one of the lowest. I got to admit, I watched it. I don't know if Fish watched it or not, but Brian, tell us what you think, and then we'll see what Fish was thinking.
Well, it was 10.4 million viewers, which is supposedly the lowest in Oscars history. It was really an interesting, it's during the COVID era, so it's a little bit different. I think part of the reason why the viewership was so low is it's 2 months later than normal. Usually it's in February, March. Here we are in late April. We're just now getting the Oscars. The other thing is that with all of these nominations, for the most part, no one saw these movies in theaters. So when you're talking about best sound, best cinematography, best editing, best performances, no one saw these on a 50-foot screen in your local cinemas. Everyone watched them on a 20-inch screen on your laptop. So I think all of those, just with what the way TV ratings are going in general, even the Super Bowl's ratings, keep going down. Just with everyone watching YouTube, with everyone watching so many different ways of consuming all of these sorts of shows, just ratings continue to go down year over year.
I think I agree. I only saw 2 movies. I saw No Man's Land, which I liked. I don't know if in a real year that would have won Best Picture. I liked the film a lot. I've talked about it. I saw Hillbilly Effigy. Glenn Close, 8 nominations without winning. She said it was 8 or 9 nominations without winning, set a record. She was phenomenal. I mean, I'm gonna go out and say it. I want to be controversial, but it just seems that every year, if you bring politics into the arena, you lose viewers. And somehow that seems to be what's happening now in our award shows and in sports. And I'm all for everyone having a voice, but I think, how do you fix it? How do you fix it? Because the Oscars are a business, Brian and John, and if they continue to see ratings, the ratings are down 58 to 60%. I've never seen anything like that. And how do you build on that? Do you bring back a Billy Crystal? Do you bring a Dave Chappelle in to host it? You're right. I totally agree with you that people watch it on their TV sets. But the bottom line is the ratings were down last year, and they were down the year before. And how do you fix it?
Well, I guess that's part of the challenge. It could be, you could consider it a challenge, you consider it a problem. But, either way, you got to keep up with the times, I think. And right at the top of the show, I forget who it was, but I think it was Regina King came out, and they were talking right off the top about the George Floyd verdict and how it was a relief, and yeah, it's a legit conversation to have, but it was a conversation right at the very top of the Oscars. And I think what we see with a lot of Hollywood, especially, is a lot of our entertainment now is going more into advocacy mode than it is entertainment. A lot of people have a lot of thoughts on both sides of that issue. I prefer the entertainment side of things. Even if I agree with someone, I personally don't like getting preached at. That's what it feels like sometimes, regardless of whether I agree with them or not. However, a lot of people also like hearing positive self-affirmation, that kind of thing. But I also think that can make a lot of people tune out. And in an era where it's hard to get everyone in one place watching anything, to have a bunch of Hollywood elites handing each other awards and slapping each other in the back and be like, "You're the greatest." No, you're the greatest. It's hard because you think about like when I was growing up, I was a kid growing up in the late 80s and 90s, and you would see Billy Crystal host the Oscars, and you would see the old guy from City Slickers come out and do one-hand push-ups.
Jack Palance.
Yeah, Jack Palance. And I was too young for it, but you would hear about Johnny Carson hosting obviously was the great host of the Tonight Show, that he would host the Oscars for a good decade there. And now within the last couple of years, they keep messing around with hostless shows. Oh, we're having a hostless show. We're just going to have, a lot of it, I think it's frustrations over something getting too big. You get all these red carpet shows about people talking about fashion. If you're into really fashion, that can be interesting. But you hear so many stories about who's wearing what designer, and 6-figure gift bags for people presenting an award. If it's not entertaining and if it's just preachy, people have remotes. People have mouses now to click off too.
let me jump in on that. I'm all for the voice. Your athletes and your actors are the ones that young kids and people look up to. I'm off of the preaching after a while, so I get it. You have a right to set your voice, and if you can lead people, that's great. But that's another thing. It's the affluence that turns people up. You have 45 million people out of work, and you said you get the six-figure bags. And you know what? When you watch Oscars, and I grew up in LA, my parents, my mom, and my stepdad were in the industry. I never gave a shit about what someone wore wearing to the Oscars and who's walking down the red carpet. I always believe this, and you learn this when you live in LA. If you're nominated for an Academy Award, you already won. That's it. You know, it's the people that vote on this, and who knows if it's rigged or not. I don't even know. But it's lost its allure with me. I go back. You go back to the 90s, John. I go back when Carson used to host it, and it was so big, and it was at the Schubert Theater, and it was a big event, and it was, you know, the ratings were almost as good as an NFL game or an NFL playoff game. And now to see it decline like this, it's not all because of politics and this and that. It's what you said, Brian, is that people are on their phones and they're on YouTube. You're not getting that 18 to 35 demo. I guarantee you, you know this better than I do, Brian. You're the expert. I guarantee you the 18 to 49 demographic was horrible for the Oscars. Guarantee it.
Yeah, probably. I haven't seen those numbers yet, but I think the other thing is too is like, look, you can send any message you want, just make it entertaining. I mean, there's the history of, you know, things like Star Trek is filled with sending a message, but if you bury it in entertainment, tell me a good story. Don't make me feel like I'm stuck out at a picket line, and you know, it's all tone, right? It's the tone of it all. Make it fun, make it entertaining. Tell me a good story. That's my opinion, at least.
Maureen Dowd in the New York Times columnist had a great column on not only Hollywood but also the Oscars, and saying partially exactly what you guys were saying as far as it's not entertaining anymore, and that's really what the industry should be. The other side of it she was talking about, and I agree with this too, is the technology. It's changing an awful lot. So I kind of see Hollywood, I see the Oscars kind of like car racing. You know, we all stop and watch the Indy 500. But really, how many of us really watch Formula One or Grand Prix? What do we look at? Well, we watch NASCAR. Why? Because it's kind of what we do. It's kind of part of our lives. So what I see is the technology has changed. So even, you know, before COVID, I think the Oscars were dropping. I think Hollywood was dropping. I think people going to the movie theaters was dropping. Why? Because we got Netflix and Amazon. I mean, we have this show right here online. I shoot a TV show off my iPhone that's travel, food, wine, and golf. Brian, you're a hit on YouTube. And it's like back in the 90s or even, you know, 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't just create your own show and be a star among that. So I think that has changed it. And then on top of it, and Fish and I do a lot of talking about, okay, what are you binge watching now? What are you watching? And he comes up with some incredible stuff. And one of them was a show called Stranger Things. And it's a sci-fi show set in the 1980s. I hate sci-fi. I watched this. I was so hooked on this. And what was so amazing to me was these young kids who were actors in it, who were show stealers. And it was absolutely fabulous. I watch so many shows now. I don't see any bad actors. I mean, there's so many good actors out there now. So there's just a supply of stuff out there. Plus you got the technology. So for me, I don't really see the Oscars being a part of anything really anymore because they're forcing it. They're putting it in theaters for a week so that they can put it at the Oscars, and then they put it on Netflix and Amazon. What do you think about that, Brian?
I agree 100%. And, you know, I guess, you know, you could look at it as a plus or a minus. And I think it's, you know, we could say that we're in a golden age of streaming shows right now because we have so many different streaming services putting out what used to be network quality shows, but without the restrictions of network, you know, over the air broadcasting. You can swear, you can have nudity, you can have all kinds of bloody, confrontational, whatever. You can push the envelope a lot more with streaming shows than you can with network shows. And with streaming shows, you can do longer form storytelling without having to fit into a 3 or 4 hour feature film. So I think we're seeing a lot of streaming shows like that are being really creative. We're seeing a lot of creative people being able to tell new stories that we haven't seen before. The side effect of that, though, is I think we're seeing we're seeing a lot of theater chains now struggling to get butts in seats. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing these really expensive, the Avengers type movies, and I love those. And we're seeing a lot of low cost horror films and, independent Oscar hopefuls. But the middle ground, the $70 or $80 million budget feature films, studio level comedies, we don't see as many of those anymore on the big screen. A lot of those now have been pushed down to a lower budget and are straight to Netflix.
You guys both have a background. John was an anchor here at Channel 13 News in Las Vegas, and Brian, you've been at the local Channel 3 and Channel 8 as a photographer and done some production and producing. You could take it to another level that because of the CNNs and the MSNBCs, I think the local network, the local TV feeds for news is becoming obsolete, and it's horrible because John and I grew up with the NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliates, and that's how you got your news. And maybe the way we're going right now, that John could do a show on his iPhone and we could do this online, then maybe the movies are going to go that way. I mean, it's so sad. I mean, you guys have great stories and network, all the network TVs, newsrooms and stuff like that. And do you think, Brian, that we're going to see in the next 15, 20 years just a contraction of a lot of local TV news?
I think that we've seen newspapers slowly die out and become websites.
Right.
If the common theme is that newspapers died 5 years ago, I think local TV news is dying. I don't think it'll die completely, but I think the era of going to a fatal car crash and having a reporter and a photographer from all 3 or 4 stations plus Telemundo all show up to cover one car accident, I think that era is going, if not completely gone. When I first started at Channel 3 in 2006 as a photojournalist, as a news photographer, the camera I was using was just it was a DVC Pro camera, which is just a standard definition camera, but it was a full-size camera, and those things were going for $50,000 or $60,000. But by the time I left and I moved across town, the cameras that they were introducing, there'd been an ownership change, all that kind of stuff. But the cameras that were being introduced were prosumer, professional consumer level cameras that were less than a fifth that cost. And, part of that is good that technology got cheaper because it allows us to do exactly what we're doing right now, to be able to afford lights and cameras and laptops out of our own pockets. But that also changes the business model. And I do think something is lost there when you go from having an experienced reporter and an experienced photographer, 2 people out in the field checking each other's work, to someone who has 2 or 3 years experience and they're doing the job by themselves, fresh out of Bakersfield or Yakima, somewhere very small. I do think there is something that's lost in the product that's created, but we're also looking at freeing people up to do stuff on YouTube, to get your own website, to do your own podcast. And if you like the idea of being in front of the camera and talking about stuff that you care about and not just getting to know the homicide detective on a first name basis, on covering murders all the time, there's pluses and minuses. I think it is very different. I do think news is changing. I do think people that love watching news as it was growing up for me in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, when I got in 1999. I think it is all changing. I think it will continue to change. I do think there will always be some sort of news, but even in local newsrooms now, you're seeing a lot of people switch over to the digital side. There's been a huge change in the business just in the last 3 or 4 years. And not to go too deep into it, but in the 90s, there was a big change under the Clinton administration and the FCC, where you could only own so many stations under one corporate thing. And basically the last 20 years, one fish has been, swallowing a bigger fish. And now there's basically 6 or 7 corporations that own most of the channels in the country. So It's not a monopoly, but it's a quasi-monopoly. And, there's less money. Yeah, there's less money. There's fewer jobs. There's less job satisfaction. There's more busy work. There's less quality work across the board. I mean, there's still great work being done. There will always be some jobs, but the quality of the work, I mean, even with anchors, you're seeing younger and younger anchors getting the anchor desk at local affiliates, and you're seeing experienced anchors being pushed out.
Yeah,
Brian,
I hear you.
Brian,
Yeah,
I think we got to have you back on to talk about this because we're just about out of time, and you're hitting so many great issues there. But I always said that reporters are no longer reporters; they're just recorders. So you don't really get journalism. And
MMJs.
we got to bring you on and have you talk about that because I wrote a book on that. So this is you're hitting all the great issues there. Brian, thank you so much. Thanks for everything, your insight. We got to have you back on again, buddy.
Absolutely, thank you.
You're great, buddy. You're fantastic. Just get rid of the Wilson jersey.
All right, we
fantastic, man. I'll see you at the bar for a drink, buddy.
All right, we've been talking to Brian Torreson. He is the Dragon movie guy. Check him out and subscribe to him on YouTube. Hey, looking for a golf getaway? The place to check is the Myrtle Beach Golf Trail. They have dozens of courses to choose from along the Carolina coast. The site is myrtlebeachgolftrail.com. You can set up yourself, your family, or a bunch of friends. Again, it's the Myrtle Beach Golf Trail. You can play there almost all year round. Okay, Fish, what a great opening show. Oh, my gosh. We had so much stuff there.
Oh, it's fantastic. I got one more thing. I got comments on here, and they said, who are your top three receivers in the draft? Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. For all we have a ton of people. Thanks, Thomas Moore, Tom Fransman, Terry Williams, Daly, Jesse Hearns. That's Tommy Hitman's brother. But they all want to know how where the receivers are going. So sorry, John. That's your top three receivers in the draft. All
right, that's great. How much time do we have left? I can't see the clock here.
We got about your sex life, 4 minutes.
Oh, that's four. That's 4 sex lives. So, fill me in. What else hit you today? I mean, I love the fact we had Dr. Dan on, and we talked about sports, but we also talked about medicine and health. I think Brian talked about news, but he really hit the nail on the head as far as the Oscars go.
Well, we got sports entertainment in. That's a great thing. We, for our inaugural show, Brian's a young voice, and Brian is really good at, that demographic that we don't have. We're just good-looking guys in our early 60s. And again, to have Doogie Howser on the show is fantastic. When Dr. Dan comes out with when the networks hit him up or Netflix and says, let's do a show, we get royalties. Because he was great. I mean, he answered the questions we want to know because we all want to go back to sporting events. And Brian, we're going to have him on again. That's our media guy. That's the guy that's is going to get us in touch with the future of the media, what we can look for, and for dying breed like us, can we grasp some of that old technology and keep some of the network news? I loved it. It was a great inaugural show, John, and it was a lot of fun. That's what I could say.
Yep, great job. Okay, next week, Fish, we're going to find out how well you did on your predictions for the draft. Also, we're going to have pro golfer Thad Daber. He is the Guinness Book World Record holder as a one-club champion. We're also going to talk golf today, and also about a great celebrity event that he has going on that I'm going to be attending. That's going to be in Columbia, South Carolina. It's the first week in June, so check in for that. Remember, watch Daly Fish live on Facebook. Just go to our Facebook page on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. Drop some comments to us in the chat there. Also, you can see us recorded on DBNA Television. DBNA Television can be seen on Roku TV and also on Amazon Fire TV, coming soon to Apple TV. It's also streaming 24/7 on the DBNA Television website. That's dbnatelevision.com. Also follow us and like us on Facebook at daily.fish.5. And you can also find us on YouTube. Man, we got a lot of stuff, don't we? I'm rumbling.
Hey, big shout out to one guy, RJ Herfel, a friend of mine, Chuck's Tavern customer. This guy lost 40 pounds in like 2 months. He had a condition, and he looks fantastic. And he's a big fan of yours, John, from Real TV, and he's a big sports fan. And he loved what Dr. Dan had to say about the sports. A big Giants and 49ers fan. Keep up the good work. Maybe Mets on to see RJ, and we thank all our fans from Chuck's Tavern. John, it's a pleasure. I can't wait to continue this, buddy.
Yep. Give our best to RJ. Tell him we're pulling for him to keep up the good work. And then we definitely want to go to Shucks when we get back out there. So I'll be coming out there soon, hopefully. And hopefully we'll get you out here to Myrtle Beach, get you on the golf course and whoop you.
Oh, done deal. So, hey, thanks a lot. And we'll see you guys all next week. And for Daly Fish, that's a wrap. And
see you next week on Daly Fish, everybody.